Jake Henderson pushed through Morrison Tech's glass doors at 11:47 p.m. on Christmas Eve. Snow clung to his worn jacket, melting against the fabric. His boots left wet prints across the lobby floor he'd walked 1,000 times before. The building was empty. Just him and the hum of servers 3 floors down, their mechanical breathing the only sound in the vast space. His phone showed one message from Mrs. Chen next door. "Sophie's asleep." Don't worry. He did worry. Always. Worrying had become his default state, like breathing or blinking. 14 months since Emily died. 14 months of being both parents. 14 months of drowning while pretending to swim. 14 months of holding together pieces that didn't want to fit anymore. His workstation sat in the corner of the open floor plan. Other desks had photos in frames, plants with names, coffee mugs with inside jokes. His had a monitor, a keyboard that clicked too loud, and folders that never shrank no matter how many hours he worked. Jake logged in. The database migration wouldn't finish itself. Numbers and code were reliable. They made sense. They didn't ask questions he couldn't answer. Outside, the city glowed with holiday lights strung between buildings. Families were home. Children asleep, waiting for morning magic. Normal people living normal lives with normal problems. He wasn't normal anymore. Normal had died with Emily. His apartment was small. 2 cramped bedrooms. Broken heater that the landlord promised to fix, but never did. Sophie's room had glow-in-the-dark stars Emily had put up years ago, when Sophie was 3 and afraid of the dark. Now, Sophie was 7. The stars were peeling at the edges, losing their glow. Jake had bought a string of dollar store Christmas lights. That was it. No tree, no decorations, no cookies baking in an oven, no traditions, no joy. Just him, working Christmas Eve, because overtime meant new shoes for Sophie next month. Because rent was due. Because the electric bill didn't care about grief. His phone buzzed. David Murphy, his supervisor, the man who'd never worked a holiday in 6 years. Need the Carson report by 6 a.m. Clients want it first thing. The report wasn't due until January 3rd. Jake knew this. David knew this. But David also knew Jake would never say no. Jake's fingers hovered over the keyboard. He could refuse. Could say no. Could stand up for himself. He typed, "I'll have it ready." He always did. He always would. Because he couldn't afford to be difficult. Couldn't afford to be human. Couldn't afford anything except survival. Morrison Tech had been good to Jake. Everyone said so. His sister, his neighbors, even strangers at the grocery store when he mentioned where he worked. "You're lucky," they'd say. Stable job in this economy. But stable wasn't fair. Stable wasn't right. Stable was just another word for trapped. 6 years at Morrison. Started in IT support, answering phones and resetting passwords. Moved to database management when he showed aptitude. Became the go-to person for anything complex or urgent or impossible because he never complained and always delivered. 3 people quit his department last year. Their work landed on Jake's desk like snow accumulating, inch by inch, until he was buried. "Just temporary," David said every time Jake asked about replacements. "Until we hire someone new." They never hired anyone new. The positions stayed open. The work stayed on Jake's desk. Last month's annual review lasted 4 minutes. David had barely looked up from his phone. "Solid work, Henderson. Keep it up. You're very consistent." No raise, no promotion, no acknowledgement he was doing 4 people's jobs for 1 person's salary. No recognition that he arrived first and left last and worked through every lunch break and holiday and weekend. Consistent, David had said, like it was a compliment. Like Jake should be grateful. Consistent meant predictable, reliable, unable to leave because he had a daughter and bills and no college degree, to put on applications to better companies. David knew all of this. He knew exactly how trapped Jake was. Other people moved up. Marcus got promoted to senior analyst after 8 months. Rachel became team lead after 2 years. Both had degrees. Both had options. Both could afford to walk away if things got bad. Jake stayed exactly where he was, sinking slowly, drowning in work, suffocating under the weight of responsibilities that weren't his but became his anyway. The Carson report took 3 hours of work he didn't have time for. Jake sent it at 2:43 a.m., eyes burning, fingers cramping. David wouldn't even see it until after Christmas dinner with his family, with his kids, with his life that didn't require working holidays or choosing between eating and paying rent. The bus stop was empty. Wind cut through Jake's jacket. 20 minutes later, he climbed 3 flights of stairs, gripping the wobbly railing. Inside his apartment, freezing cold. The heater had given up entirely 2 days ago. Jake had called the landlord 3 times. No response. He checked on Sophie. She was curled under 2 blankets, breathing visible in the frigid air. Mr. Hop, her stuffed rabbit, Emily's last gift tucked under her chin. Sophie's lips looked blue in the dim light. On her nightstand sat a drawing from school. Stick figures, her, Jake, and a butterfly with purple wings. "Miss you, Mama," written in careful 7-year-old letters. Jake's throat tightened so hard he couldn't breathe. He backed out, closed the door gently, stood in the dark hallway with his fist pressed against his mouth to keep the sound inside. In the kitchen, he opened the nearly empty fridge. Milk that would expire tomorrow. 3 eggs, bread, peanut butter. Christmas dinner would be PB&J sandwiches. Again, he was too tired to feel ashamed. Too numb to care. Too empty to be anything except what he'd become. A machine that worked and paid bills and kept his daughter alive. Nothing more. Nothing else. Nothing left. Christmas night. Jake's key turned at 11:15 p.m. Another full shift. Emergency server maintenance. Or so David claimed. David had called at noon, voice casual, unconcerned. "Need you to come in. Systems down. Critical situation." "It's Christmas," Jake had said, looking at Sophie's disappointed face. "I know. Wouldn't ask if it wasn't an emergency. You understand." Jake understood perfectly. He understood that David would never work a holiday himself. Understood that emergency meant inconvenient for me. He'd dropped Sophie at his sister's house. She'd cried. Quiet tears sliding down her cheeks. "It's okay, Daddy," she'd whispered. Those words hurt worst. Now home, exhausted, ready to collapse. He opened the door. Water running. Someone was inside. The kitchen. Dishes clinking. Faucet turning off. Movement. He should call police. Should run. Should do anything except walk forward into potential danger. Instead, he walked forward, feet moving automatically down the narrow hallway. A woman stood at his sink. Hands in soapy water, scrubbing a plate. Laura Chen, CEO of Morrison Tech. Dark jeans. Cream sweater. Hair pulled back. No makeup. She looked up. 3 seconds of silence. Then Laura set down the plate. "I'm sorry for breaking in." Jake's brain refused to process. "What, how? Your neighbor?" "Mrs. Chen." "She's my aunt." "Of course." Chen, the connection he'd never made. "She gave me her key," Lara continued. Professional voice. "I told her I needed to see something." Jake looked around. His apartment had been cleaned. Dishes done. Floor swept. Mail organized. "You cleaned my house." Laura wiped her hands on his towel, the faded Superman one. "Because I found out what David's been doing. I needed to see if what I suspected was true." Jake's legs felt weak. He sat hard in a kitchen chair. "What David's been doing." Laura sat across from him, hands red from hot water. "How long have you been doing multiple people's work?" "About a year." "How many performance reviews?" How many raises? None. Lara's jaw tightened. How many times has David promised promotion? Jake laughed bitterly. He doesn't promise, he implies. But nothing happens. Nothing happens. Lara pulled out her phone, opened a file, turned it toward him. A spreadsheet. Names, positions, salaries, performance scores. Jake's name highlighted. Performance. 94 over 100. Salary. $58,000. Position. Database Specialist 2. Next row. Marcus Chen. Score. 76 over 100. Salary. $89,000. Below that, Rachel Kim. Score. 81 over 100. Salary. $82,000. Team lead. Jake stared. The numbers made no sense. 12 people in your department, Lara said quietly. You rank second in performance. 11th in pay. The kitchen tilted. David's been suppressing your evaluations, Lara continued. Every time HR flagged you, he marked you currently being assessed and pushed it back 90 days. 7 times. 7 times. Budget manipulation. Her finger moved across the spreadsheet. David requested funding for 4 new hires. Board approved. But he never filled positions. Where did the money go? General Operating Fund. Which affects his performance bonus. She looked up. He got $47,000 extra last year by keeping you understaffed and overworked. Rage so pure it felt like ice. He got paid for making me work harder, for not promoting me, for keeping me desperate. Lara nodded. Jake stood, walked to the window, pressed forehead against cold glass. Christmas lights blinked outside. Red, green, white, cheerful, oblivious. I worked Christmas, he said. Left Sophie crying because David said emergency. There was no emergency. Lara's voice quiet. Server issue was scheduled maintenance. Could have waited. Jake turned. I missed Christmas with Sophie for nothing. I'm telling you that you've been systematically exploited. The words hung. Jake felt something crack inside. Something holding him together for 14 months. I can't do this anymore, he whispered. I know. I'm so tired. I know. Lara stood, walked over. Stopped a respectful distance. When my aunt told me about you, she said, about Emily, Sophie, how you work every holiday and never complain, I thought she was exaggerating. She gestured around. Then I looked at data. Saw this place. Broken heater, empty fridge, dollar store lights. Her voice cracked. You've been surviving on nothing while David got rich off your suffering. Jake's eyes burned. He pressed palms against them. Don't, he said. Please don't be kind. I'll fall apart. Then fall apart. I can't. Sophie needs her father to be human, not a machine. The tears came. Hot and shameful and unstoppable. He cried for Emily. For Sophie. For every missed bedtime and cold dinner and broken promise. For the man he used to be. Lara didn't touch him. Didn't speak. Just stood there, bearing witness. When he finally stopped, his face was wet. I'm sorry, he said. Don't be. You're my boss. This is unprofessional. I'm the CEO. I decide what's professional. She handed him paper towel. Being human is the most professional thing you can do. Jake wiped his face. What happens now? Now, Lara said. We fix this. A door opened. Sophie stood in the hallway, rubbing her eyes. Mr. Hop dangled from her hand. Daddy? Jake's heart stopped. Sophie, what are you doing here? Aunt Melissa dropped me off. Sophie looked at Lara. Who's that? This is Miss Chen. She works with Daddy. Sophie climbed onto a chair, studying Lara with serious eyes. You're pretty. Lara smiled. First genuine smile Jake had seen. I know. Sophie swung her legs. Did Daddy cry? Jake froze. No, sweetie, your eyes are red. Mama's used to get red when she cried. Sophie looked at Lara. Is Daddy sad? Lara glanced at Jake. He nodded. A little bit, Lara said. Sometimes grown-ups get sad. It's okay. Mama said crying is just feelings leaking out because they got too big to keep inside. Lara's expression softened. Your mama was very wise. Sophie nodded. Then she disappeared into her room. Jake started to follow, but she returned, carrying a drawing. I made this today. She handed it to Lara. Aunt Melissa helped with the wings. A butterfly. Purple and blue. It's beautiful, Lara said. Mama liked butterflies. She said they start as caterpillars, which are kind of ugly and slow. But then they go in their cocoon and they change, and when they come out, they can fly. Metamorphosis, Lara said softly. Metamorphosis, Sophie repeated. That's a big word. It means transformation. Becoming something new. Sophie smiled. Mama said that's what happens when sad things happen. We go in our cocoon for a while, but then we come out different. Better. Jake's throat closed. Emily had said that. After her diagnosis, we're in our cocoon now, Emily had told Sophie. But we'll come out flying, I promise. You can keep it, Sophie said to Lara. The butterfly. Maybe you need to remember about cocoons, too. Lara looked at the drawing. Then she folded it carefully and put it in her pocket. Thank you, she said, voice unsteady. I think I did need to remember. Sophie yawned. Okay. Night, Daddy. Night, Miss Chen. She padded back to her room. Jake and Lara sat in silence. She's extraordinary, Lara finally said. She's all I have. Then we make sure you get to keep her. Lara pulled out her phone. I'm calling an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning. It's December 26th. I don't care. David's done. I'm terminating him effective immediately. Jake's stomach lurched. Wait. If you fire him, you're afraid of retaliation. I'm afraid of everything falling apart. Lara met his eyes. It's already apart, Jake. We're just going to put it back together right this time. The emergency board meeting happened at 8 a.m. on December 26th. Jake stayed home with Sophie. But his phone stayed in his hand. At 10:17 a.m., Lara called. It's done. What's done? David's terminated. HR is auditing everything. Every suppressed evaluation, every manipulated report, every person he exploited. Sophie ran toward the park slide. The board fought you, Jake guessed. Of course. They always do when it affects the bottom line. Lara sounded tired. But I reminded them that wage suppression and fraud are worse for reputation than admitting a mistake. What about me? What about you? Do I still have a job? Silence. Do you want one? The question caught him off guard. I need one. That's not what I asked. Jake sat on a bench. Snow soaked through his jeans. Did he want to work at Morrison Tech? But it was Lara's company now. She'd blown up a board meeting on December 26th. I want to work somewhere that sees me, he said finally. Then you do. I don't understand. I'm offering you senior database architect. 40% salary increase, immediate effect. Full benefits, childcare assistance, flexible hours. Lara paused. And before you think this is charity, I'm going to work you hard. But in the right ways. I need someone who knows our systems to rebuild this department. Jake's brain stuttered. 40%. $81,400 annually. More than he'd imagined. Better apartment. Fixed heater. Real Christmas tree next year. There's a condition, Lara added. What? You work reasonable hours. Take vacation days. Leave when your daughter needs you. Firm voice. I'm not saving you from one exploitation to enable another. I need you sustainable, not broken. Sophie slid down, laughing. Why are you doing this? Jake asked. Long silence. Because 15 years ago, I slept in my office to prove commitment. I missed my niece's birth. Forgot my own birthday 3 years running. I built an empire, and lost everything that mattered. Your aunt mentioned divorce. Twice. Both times because I chose board meetings over anniversary dinners. She exhaled. I thought that's what success looked like. It took a 7-year-old showing me a butterfly to realize I've been in my cocoon for a very long time. Jake felt something shift. Not attraction yet. Recognition. So we're both learning to fly, he said. Maybe. Lara's voice softened. Take the weekend. Think about it. Monday, we start rebuilding. If you want to. I want to. Good. She hung up. Jake sat watching Sophie build a snowman. $81,000. Flexible hours. A boss who cried over butterflies. Maybe metamorphosis was real. Monday morning, Jake walked into Morrison Tech with his head up. Lara's assistant met him. 4th floor, conference room B. Lara sat at the table, laptop open, looking every inch the CEO. When Jake entered, she smiled. The real smile. Close the door. He did. This isn't charity, Lara started. I'm hiring you because I need you. She turned the laptop. Cloud infrastructure plan. 3-year project, $40 million. David recommended outsourcing. I want you to lead it. Jake looked at the plan. Ambitious, complex. Exactly the challenge he'd been ready for years ago. I can do this. I know. Lara closed the laptop. But you'll have resources, a team, budget, authority. She slid a folder across. Your team, 7 people, all qualified, properly compensated. 2 are former colleagues who left because of David. I brought them back. Jake opened it. Names, resumes, salaries, transparent. Fair. This is real, he said quietly. This is real. There's no catch? Lara laughed. Genuine. You've been surviving on scraps so long that a full meal feels suspicious. Maybe. No catch. Just high expectations. Innovation. Leadership. Results. But from someone who goes home at 5:30 and doesn't apologize, something unknotted in Jake's chest. I can do that. Then we have a deal. She extended her hand. They shook. Professional. But she didn't step back. One more thing. My aunt is hosting dinner Sunday. She insisted I invite you and Sophie. Jake smiled. Mrs. Chen's worried about my nutrition? She's worried about everything. It's her love language. We'll be there. Relief crossed her face. Good. She makes incredible dumplings. Sophie will be thrilled. I know. Lara's voice softened. I saw your fridge, remember? Most people would be uncomfortable. But Lara just looked sad. That changes now, she said. First paycheck hits Friday. I had payroll expedited. You didn't have to. I did, because you've been underpaid for years, and I can't fix the past, but I can fix the present. She moved toward the door. Your office is down the hall. 3rd door. It has a window. Jake followed. The office had his name on the door. Jake Henderson, Senior Database Architect. Engraved metal, not printed paper. Welcome to the team, Lara said. Then she walked away, leaving Jake standing in front of an office that felt like the first day of a life he'd forgotten how to want. Sunday dinner at Mrs. Chen's was chaos in the best way. Sophie and Mrs. Chen's granddaughter Emma made dumplings, hands covered in flour. Jake sat with Lara in the living room, drinking tea. She looked different. Jeans. Gray sweater. Hair down. Emma's studying engineering, Mrs. Chen called. Lara closed her eyes. Aunt Lee, please. Smart women have trouble finding good men. Too intimidating. Jake hid his smile. I'm not intimidating, Lara muttered. You run a $100 million company. That doesn't make me intimidating. You fired a man on Christmas. He deserved it. Mrs. Chen sighed and returned to the kitchen. Jake set down his teacup. For what it's worth, I don't think you're intimidating. Lara raised an eyebrow. Liar. Okay, a little. But in a good way. like a lighthouse. She laughed. Did you just compare me to a navigation beacon? Is that bad? It's weird. But I'll take it. She pulled her knees up. Can I ask you something personal? Sure. How do you do it? Single, parent thing. Working, raising Sophie, keeping it together. Jake looked toward Sophie, giggling in the kitchen. I don't keep it together, he admitted. I just keep moving. If I stop, I'll think about everything I'm doing wrong. You're not doing anything wrong. I fed her PB and J for Christmas dinner. You showed up. You stayed. You kept her safe. Laura's voice was fierce. That's not wrong. That's love. Jake's throat tightened. Emily would have done it better. Stop comparing yourself to a ghost. You're doing your best with impossible circumstances. Was, past tense. Things are better now, because you asked for help. That takes courage. I didn't ask. You broke in and cleaned my kitchen. Semantics, she grinned. You let me help. A lot of people wouldn't have. A lot of people don't have fairy godmother CEOs. I prefer corporate vigilante. Jake laughed, actually laughed. Mrs. Chen called. Dinner's ready. They gathered around. Dumplings, rice, vegetables, soup. Sophie's eyes widened. This is so much food. Eat, Mrs. Chen commanded. You're too skinny. Halfway through, Sophie looked at Lara. Miss Chen? Call me Lara. Lara. Do you have kids? The table went still. No, Lara said gently. Why not? Sophie, Jake started. It's okay. Lara looked at Sophie. I wanted to, but I was so busy with work that I forgot to make time. By the time I remembered, it was too late. Sophie frowned. That's sad. A little bit. You could still have a family. Families don't have to be born. They can be made. She pointed at Mrs. Chen. She's not my real grandma. But she's my grandma anyway. Mrs. Chen's eyes glistened. So you could be something, Sophie continued. Lara's voice was unsteady. What would you want me to be? Sophie considered. A friend. Daddy doesn't have enough friends. Jake's face heated. Sophie, it's true. You only talk to Aunt Melissa and Mrs. Chen. Lara met Jake's eyes. I'd like to be your friend. If that's okay, it's okay. Jake said quietly. Good. Sophie returned to dumplings, unaware she'd just rearranged everything. After dinner, Emma took Sophie to watch a movie. Jake helped with dishes. Lara dried. She's special. Mrs. Chen said. She is. She sees things clearly. No adult nonsense. Mrs. Chen handed him another dish. She sees you're lonely. That Lara's lonely. That loneliness is fixable. Lara focused on drying. Jake rinsed his hands. We should go. It's late. Take leftovers, Mrs. Chen insisted. And come back next week. We don't want to impose. Not imposing. Family. She pressed containers into his hands. Your family now. In the car, Sophie fell asleep. Jake drove carefully. Lara sat quiet. Thank you, he finally said. For what? All of it. The job? Dinner. Letting Sophie adopt you. Lara smiled. I think she adopted me. I had no say. She's good at that, Jake. Lara turned toward him. Can I ask you something? Sure. Are you okay? Really okay, not just surviving? He thought about it. Honestly, I'm getting there, he said. For the first time in a long time, I think I might actually get there. Good. Her hand moved toward his on the gear shift, then stopped. I'm glad. They didn't touch. But something shifted anyway. 3 months later, Jake moved into a new apartment. 2 bedrooms, working heat, a dishwasher. Sophie got her own room, painted yellow. The butterfly drawing hung framed in the living room. Work was different. Jake had a functional team. Projects moved forward without sacrificing sleep. He left at 5:30 most days. The first time he picked Sophie up from school at 3 p.m., she'd cried, happy tears. Because you're here. Lara came to Sunday dinners. Every week. They talked about Sophie's school play, Mrs. Chen's garden, Emma's exams, normal things, family things. Jake noticed how Lara relaxed during these dinners. The CEO, mask slipping, revealing someone softer. He noticed the way she laughed at Sophie's jokes, helped with homework, looked at him when she thought he wasn't watching. He noticed, and felt something grow that wasn't grief. 6 months in, company picnic. Sophie ran around, face painted like a butterfly. Lara appeared at Jake's elbow. Can I steal you? They walked to a quieter area. I've been thinking, Lara said, nervous, dangerous. She smiled. I like spending time with you and Sophie. I like Sunday dinners and homework and butterfly drawings. I like being part of your life. Jake's heart beat faster. And I know this is complicated, Lara continued. I'm your boss. There are power dynamics, 1,000 reasons. This is terrible. What's a terrible idea? Asking if you'd want to have dinner. Just the two of us. Not at my aunt's house. Jake stared. Are you asking me on a date? I'm asking if you'd be open to the possibility of maybe, eventually, something that could be considered date-like. She winced. I'm bad at this. You run a company worth hundreds of millions. That's easier than asking out a man I actually care about. The words hung. You care about me, Jake said. Obviously. How long? Since the night I cleaned your kitchen and you cried without apologizing for being human. Lara's voice steadied. Since Sophie gave me that drawing and I realized I'd been living half a life for 15 years. Jake looked across the park. Sophie playing tag, laughing, alive. I'm not healed, he said. I still miss Emily. I still wake up forgetting she's gone. I know. And Sophie's my priority. Always. I know that too. But I do care about you. I have for a while. I just didn't think you're you. I'm me. It seemed impossible. Everything seems impossible until it isn't. Lara smiled. Sophie taught me that. Butterflies, remember? Jake laughed. So, dinner? If you want, I want. Friday? Friday. They stood, grinning at each other. Sophie ran up, breathless. Daddy, Lara, come play tag. I'm the CEO, Lara protested. I don't run. Sophie grabbed her hand. Everyone runs. Come on. Lara did. She ran across the grass, chasing children, laughing, her professional veneer gone. Jake watched and felt his heart open in a way he'd thought was closed forever. Maybe metamorphosis was real. Maybe you could go into darkness and come out flying. Maybe family wasn't just blood or marriage. Maybe it was Sunday dinners and butterfly drawings and CEOs who cleaned your kitchen at midnight. Maybe it was this. December 24th, 1 year later. Jake unlocked his apartment door at 6 p.m. Not exhausted, not broken, not empty. He'd left work on time because his team was competent and his boss believed in balance. His boss, currently sitting on his couch with Sophie, helping string popcorn for the Christmas tree. You're home early, Lara said, smiling. It's Christmas Eve. Where else would I be? Sophie jumped up. Daddy, look what we made. The apartment was transformed. Real Christmas tree, covered in lights and handmade ornaments. Stockings hung from the bookshelf. Sugar cookies scented the air. It's beautiful, Jake said. Lara helped. Sophie beamed. And she brought presents, but won't let me see them. Christmas morning, Lara said firmly. That's the rule. Sophie pouted, but didn't argue. She was getting used to two adults enforcing boundaries. Jake hung up his coat and joined them. Lara leaned against his shoulder automatically, comfortably, because she belonged there. 6 months of dating. Officially, though it felt like she'd always been part of their lives. Some nights she stayed over. Some mornings she made breakfast. Some evenings she read bedtime stories in silly voices that made Sophie shriek. Domestic, simple, perfect. Mrs. Chen called, Lara said. She wants us at noon tomorrow. We'll be there. Emma's bringing her new boyfriend. Brave of him. Lara laughed. Right? Meeting the family on Christmas. Sophie looked between them. Are you family? Innocent. Curious. Jake and Lara exchanged glances. What do you think? Lara asked gently. Sophie was quiet. Then she pointed at the butterfly, drawing on the wall. I think families are people who help you come out of your cocoon, she said. And you did that. For both of us. Lara's eyes filled. Sophie? So, yeah, your family. Sophie said it like it was obvious. Simple. True. And maybe it was. Jake pulled them both close. His daughter and his what? Girlfriend felt too small. Partner felt clinical. Person I love was closer. Thank you, he said to Lara. For what? For breaking into my apartment a year ago. She laughed through tears. Best trespassing decision I ever made. Sophie wiggled free. Can we watch a movie now? Which one? The one with the snowman who comes to life. They settled in, Sophie between them. Christmas tree lights twinkling. Halfway through, Sophie fell asleep. Head on Jake's lap, feet on Lara's. She's out, Lara whispered. Every time. They sat in comfortable silence, snow falling outside. Jake, Lara said quietly. Yeah? I love you. First time she'd said it. Jake looked at her. This woman who'd blown up her board meeting to save him. Who'd learned to make grilled cheese the way Sophie liked. Who wore his old sweatshirt and didn't care about the hole. I love you too. She smiled. Good. Because I got you something for Christmas, and it would be awkward if you didn't. What did you get me? Not telling. Unfair. Life's unfair. She kissed him. But sometimes it gets better. On TV, the snowman danced. Outside, the city glowed with holiday lights. And in Jake's living room, warm and full and alive, a butterfly drawing hung on the wall, reminding them that transformation was possible, that darkness could end, that cocoons eventually opened, that love, in its many forms, was the thing that gave you wings.